is a culmination of 12 weeks worth of law enforcement efforts to be able to create safer Kingston. This truly has been a partnership between all of the agencies here, as well as the District Attorney's Office and many of our partners, both here in Kingston and in the state. The point of this initiative was to really have threefold. One was to eliminate gun violence. Kingston has had a rash of gun violence this year, and we really wanted to be able to let the community know that we were not going to stand for violence in our community, and the use of illegal firearms is not allowed and will not be tolerated. The second was to also break the cycle of violence and drugs that have been impacting our community and many others. Obviously, with the pandemic, it has been really difficult this year, and because of that, we've seen increases in different types of crime. And by getting drugs off the street, we're helping to keep our kids safe. We're helping to make sure that our community does not rely on illegal drugs, and that we're able to go ahead and make sure that we all can feel safe in our community. And then the third part of this was to be able to build respectful dialogue. In particular, I want to thank the New York State Police, our community partners, both at the City Common Council, our Kingston Police Commission, and members of our community who gathered almost weekly, every Tuesday night, to be able to hear concerns from the community, to talk to our community, and to recognize that we're all in this together. And through respectful dialogue, we can make really important changes to the way that we, have law enforcement working, in the community. And so, with that, this 12-week program accomplished a lot, but we recognize that there's still more work to do. And I think one of the things that this partnership did was bring us closer together with our fellow police agencies, so that not only did we work together during this 12 weeks, that we'll continue to work together to make sure that crime doesn't occur here in Kingston to the levels that it has been. And I think just on a note that this has been working with these folks over the last 12 weeks, I can attest that every single officer that has worked on this beat and has been out there in our community brought professionalism with them. They worked really hard to engage with members of our community, and really, I think, brought to Kingston something that we don't have the resources to do, because we are a small city with only 71 sworn officers, and to be able to police the way we want to, out on the street, meeting neighbors, getting to interact with folks that we don't normally get to interact with, this detail allowed us to do that.
It's a result of proactive work of law enforcement, but as a necessity to create dialogue. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Tyrone and Rita for being here. They have been a huge part of the community dialogue that's occurred at least on a bi-weekly basis. Many times the dialogue has been difficult. There's been a lot of back and forth, but we have definitely made progress, and I'd like to commend them both. Thank you very much. As far as the law enforcement component, from the community side of it, Uncle, great job. Colleen, I've seen the communities, everybody here has taken part. Like I said, difficult dialogue at times, but something that's been necessary, and I think we've made great progress. So, with that,
our community deserves protection, just like anybody else's communities. And I can tell you that this particular exercise that had to happen, because there were a multitude of shootings and unsolved homicides in our community, had to happen. And because of it, there has been a drastic fall off in shootings and homicides in our community. And the dialogue that we've had with the folks, with myself, the state police, and the chief, heading out on Saturdays, having conversations every Tuesday with the leadership that's out there. I'm very proud of what was accomplished by this detail. I look forward to working with our community leaders, all community leaders, because we are in this together. And we need to face it that way. We need to face it together as one, because that's who we all are. And the only way to identify our issues and problems is by having that dialogue and that speak and that communication. That's the only way we can work better together. And the reason why there are unsolved crimes is because there's a lack of trust between the community and law enforcement. And we are here today to establish that trust, to find a way to have that trust.
If you don't know me, my name is Rob Appleton. I am the captain of the state police. I'm in charge of Ulster and Greene County law enforcement for the state police. The arrests and the seizures is not what's noteworthy today. The most noteworthy thing is already been alluded to already, is our partnership back with the community, trying to re-bridge some of those gaps that have occurred. We're not sitting here and saying that we are without fault. We are. Some of our reputation is earned. So with that acknowledgement, that's how you're able to bridge some of these gaps and listen to some of the hard dialogue that had taken place. That's part of building trust, is being honest with one another and trying to figure out a solution that works for everybody. But what we have said loud and clear here is that if you're here to commit violence and push your drugs in the city of Kingston is not for you. We are going to be here and we're not going to leave until those issues are resolved. But most importantly, the dialogue from the community. Tyrone, Rita, and the group, we've had nothing but very good, solid conversations. And even though progress has been made, that does not mean our work is done. It continues even as we stand here today.
Spent a great deal of time trying to reach out to the community and open doors that hadn't been opened before. And I salute their effort. I think that we've drawn a little closer. I know that there are concerns out there, but at the same time, we have a safer place. On my end, our office is committed to making sure that we prosecute those criminals who are a danger to the community, at the same time rehabilitate those folks that have addiction problems and other problems that we can help.
Yeah, I too want to just assure the community that the reason why Tyrone and myself and some of the other community leaders have stood with state police and KPD and Sheriff Figueroa is because we recognize the problems that we're having, especially in the Black and brown community. And so our solution is to try to come to some resolution where we could bridge the gap. We're not saying that everything is fine. We're not saying that everything that everyone behind me has done is has worked to the best of its ability, but it is a step in the right direction. We've had many community leaders come up to us and say, this is what we want, and we brought it back to them. And to their credit, they're trying. And so that's what we appreciate. We understand that there's more work to be done. We understand the community's concerns, and that's what we're listening to. And so I would just say that, you know, if you have any questions or if you have any comments that you want to bring back to us for us to then bring it back to them, I can assure you that I have just about everybody's number up here. Anytime that I call them, they talk to me, I ask them questions. They've all been at, just about everyone up here has been at the community policing meetings that's been taken either weekly or bi-weekly, and you all are welcome to come too. You all have my number, so it's public. So you can call me and say what you will to me, and I will be sure to take it back to them.
In these meetings, you know, I stand in many hats, the Commissioner of Human Rights, but more importantly, I stand as a community member here, as a Black male who had my share of deals with police. As I say before, I have every reason in the world to sit here and say I don't need to sit here with police. But it's bigger than me. I have kids. We have kids out here. Our community needs to be safe. That's what this is about. The meetings that we have bi-weekly, it's not my meeting, and it's not our meeting. It's for the community. That meeting was created to give the community a voice, so that law enforcement can hear the community and the community can hear law enforcement. Anything that we have discussed, we focus on making sure that came from the community members, not our own personal opinions. And I think that, you know, we have the ability as a community to change the course of what's going on. We all know what's going on, and we all have to play a part in it, regardless of how we look, who we are, what we do. We all here, and you know, the best thing that we can do is put a step forward in making sure that we have a safe community, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I use the Human Rights Department one of my commissioners, Carl Brown, is here. And you know, we're not just here to, the human rights is everybody, right? So I want to emphasize, you know, I care about the community I live in. I care about the community I serve. So anytime there's an opportunity for me to have a voice, to step in, to close the gaps, to make community members who don't feel safe in front of law enforcement, how do we address that? You know, how do we get their voices out there? That's what's important here. And you know, accountability for all. And until we start understanding that and making sure we're taking care of the community, then I think we'll see a brighter day in this. These conversations are not easy, and I don't want anybody to assume that this has been peaches and cream, because we had tough conversations. You know, we had really tough conversations, and those conversations has to be had. So I invite anybody, anytime you see a post go up about these community forums, you're welcome, because you're a community member, and the only way, I can't speak for you. You're better off speaking for yourself. Let them hear you speak, and vice versa. So I hope moving forward that we start moving to resolutions, you know, because I'm tired of fighting. I really am. I'm tired, and I don't want my kids growing up in this. So I'm putting my life forward to make sure that my kids have a better future.
You know,
and the number of stops that they conducted based on the number of tickets that were actually received shows that they were just harassing people, that there was no reason for them to have that massive uptick.
there was no reason for them to stop them originally.
Yeah,
right?
there was no reason for them to be doing that at all.
So this is
you know,
just-
and they continuously are talking about public safety, but if we are talking about the root causes of gun violence, the root causes of gun violence are poverty, lack of job opportunities, community trauma. You know, like one of the biggest indicators of whether or not somebody will, you know, will be involved with gun violence is if they've had it in their communities before.
Yeah.
So if we have it, what are we doing as a community to ensure that people are not being traumatized or working towards those, you know, getting rid of that trauma, so that we're not seeing this cycle
Right,
again
so
and
it's
again
not
and
all
again.
about policing.
It's not all about policing, and we know that. Study after study will show that there are alternatives to policing that we should be looking at. We continuously are putting money into policing and into militarization, and we are not looking into supporting our communities. We are not looking into mental health for our communities. We're talking about giving tax breaks to the wealthy. And here in the city of Kingston, we spent $11.5 million on policing, and that is before this. And so when across the country, people are talking about defunding the police, investing in our communities, moving money into resources that are going to support us, it's disgusting that here in Kingston, we are looking at them being so proud of a collaboration that brought more policing into our communities. This is completely opposite from what we're seeing from people who promised progressive stances and stood out there and marched and said Black Lives Matter, and then
including the police chief,
including the police chief, including the mayor. They always march, they always stand up. The first time I heard Steve Noble talking about this, when Philando Castile and Alton Sterling were murdered, he likes to talk about what's happening in other communities, but he is not actually addressing what he can do in this community. When he has the ability to make changes, he is not doing it. And so they're doing this dance where they're bringing everyone in together and they're standing behind the blue line, and that's not what's best for the community. There are other alternatives, and they are completely ignoring them, and I want to know why. More policing is not the answer, and we know this.
Have you guys made these suggestions to the
Callie.
different
we've been
people?
having conversations with them for a very long time.
Yes.
And when we were going through our police accountability process with them, it wasn't until suddenly they decided that they didn't want to be a part of it anymore, and then it became the city versus the community. And we had to push things through. And they said they wanted to do it, but they don't actually want to go deep.